All right, everybody. Good morning, late morning now. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is the first day of a new month, and it's time for our first Seahawks video of the month as well. The earlier video obviously stayed to the channel, but now we're back to your regularly scheduled programming, and it's time to start deep diving into these rookies. I try to do this every year for the Seahawks draft picks. Sometimes I'll throw in a couple of UDFAs as well. I don't know if I'm going to do that this year because the selection of UDFAs feels a little bit thin, but we're definitely going to do it for these draft picks. We're going to start with the top guy here, Jadarian Price, and we're going to do 3 different videos, I think, here. 3 different videos. We're going to talk about him first by the numbers. We're just going to present the data, the hard facts about Jadarian Price as a player so far in his football playing career or college career. I'm not going to go back to high school, but yeah, Jadarian Price. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So Jadarian Price, we're going to start with just the hard data about him as a physical being, and then we'll get into what he's done so far as a player. So Jadarian Price, obviously a running back, played for Notre Dame in college. That's the only college he played for, which is actually very rare these days, and that is something it seemed like we liked. He showed loyalty to Notre Dame, even though he knew he was going to be behind Jeremiah Love, and he knew he would never get the full load that he would get at another school. If you put Jadarian Price on a program where he could be the lead back, he might have been a higher pick because maybe he would have had 1,300-yard seasons. We don't know. But Jadarian Price stuck it out at Notre Dame, 22 years old, and he will be 22 when the season starts, by the way. If you compare him to other running backs over the last 30 years or so in the combine, 5'11", which is about average, 51st percentile. He is lighter than the typical running back, although I feel like running backs in general are getting lighter as time goes by. He's 203 at the combine, but he probably plays at about 210 and slimmed down for the combine. So when you put that together, I think he's more typical size for a back. I don't think there's anything here that necessarily screams overly undersized running back. You look at him play at Notre Dame, he doesn't look that small. Arm length is about average, 30 and 7/8 inch arms, so that should be fine. And he's also got pretty big hands for a running back, 9 and 5/8 inch hands, 77th percentile. So that is him physically. Now, he did do a decent amount at the combine, so we did get to learn a little bit about his athleticism. And here's what the combine had to say, keeping in mind that it's just the combine, and the tape is always going to weigh a little bit heavier, especially when you do play at a real school like Notre Dame, where you're getting compared right. Ran a 4.4940, which is above average for a running back, although it is more or less kind of appropriate for his weight. Like, if he's 203 pounds, he should be running a 4.49. 72nd percentile is good, but it's not that good when you're this light. And his 10-yard split was actually bad. 161 is not really what you want to see. 32nd percentile. And if you believe him being at 210 pounds makes him even slower, that's kind of a problem. So I'm hoping he's faster, and I do kind of think that he is, at least somewhat. He's quicker to accelerate on the football field than he is at the combine. 35-inch vertical is a little bit disappointing given the fact that he was a little bit light. 58th percentile, you'd want a little bit more. The broad jump was good, though. 10 foot 4 inches, 84th percentile. That's fine for his size. And 21 bench press reps is a little bit above average, so he does have a little bit of strength to him. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So Download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. Okay, so Jadarian Price by the statistics. So he was a 3-year player at Notre Dame. He was on the team in 2022, but he tore his Achilles. Did not play at all. And that Achilles tear is something that looms a little bit troubling, but he has not missed a game over the last 3 years. So he seems to have moved past it. Now, 2023 was a year where he was not even really the backup running back. He was barely used. 2023, he did play in all 13 games, or he was active for all 13 games, but he only got 107 snaps total, 47 carries, 272 rushing yards, which is 5.8 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, and almost all of his yards, well, most of them, I'd say, 215 yards after contact. So not huge volume, but you can see the talent and the ability. So good stuff here. He broke 14 tackles on runs, so pretty decent rate of breaking tackles. 8 of his carries went for at least 10 yards. 5 of his carries went for at least 15 yards. And you can see that that's a pretty decent rate of explosive carry. He had 5 targets in the passing game for 5 catches and 65 yards, 13 yards per. And he also caught 1 touchdown. And all and then some of his receiving yards were yak. He had 74 yak yards because he's mostly targeted in the backfield, which is the case for most running backs, so that's not original to him. 14.8 yards per yards after catch per reception. And in pass coverage, in pass protection, he allowed 1 quarterback hit and 1 quarterback hurry. So a little bit leaky there because he didn't get a lot of reps there. 13 total. So not what you want to see, but this was the first year he actually played at Notre Dame. And you can see kind of the breakdown here. He played almost exclusively from the backfield. He lined up as a wide receiver 5 times, very insignificant. Little bit more gap than zone, but not a big difference. Basically equivalent and not a big enough sample size anyway. On the field for 48 runs, 36 passes, ran 34 routes, and he had 13 pass block reps and 10 run block reps. I assume the run blocking is mostly the quarterback running a draw, and then you're kind of sort of lead blocking for him. Graded very well, almost an 84, 83.3 running, 73.4 as a receiver. Not very good as a blocker, but first year playing, pretty good. He becomes a full-time backup in 2024 behind Jeremiah Love, and he does very well in that capacity. 2024 was, in some measures, his best season. Depends on how you feel about the fact that he got to play extra games to put up those extra numbers. So he got 16 games because Notre Dame made the playoff, the championship game this year, 302 snaps. So you can see that even this year, it's not even 20 snaps a game. It's like 19 snaps per game approximately. So there isn't a lot of activity for him. 120 carries. And when you combine that with 4 catches, he's averaging something like eight touches a game. Low usage, but he's very efficient. Almost 750 rushing yards, 6.2 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. Does have the 1 fumble. A lot of yards after contact, averages 4.5 yards after contact per carry. So he is doing some stuff to generate bonus yards. 27. It's not really a broken tackle, by the way. It's a missed tackle force. So it could just be a situation where the elusiveness took him free, but they give him 27 missed tackles forced. 22 of his carries go for at least 10 yards, 15 go for at least 15 or more. So again, the ratio of significant carry to total carries is good. Gets targeted 6 times, 4 catches, so not really a receiving threat. Only 10 receiving yards, and 22 of the yards are after the catch. So again, pretty much every catch is deep in the backfield. Allows 1 sack in pass pro, 2 hurries as well, so still struggling. But the usage is now up to a point where you're starting to judge him a little bit. He lines up in the backfield 280 times almost, but he does give you 15 slot reps and 8 wide receiver reps, so there's a little bit of variety here. And he does a lot more zone than gap, which we should definitely note that. He can do both. He gets opportunities to do both, but he does emerge as more of a zone back in 2024. 122 runs he's on the field for, 104 passes. He runs 96 routes total, by the way. Run blocks 41 times, again, mostly Riley Leonard scrambles, because that was a big part of his game this year, and 35 pass block reps. So he is getting a little bit more action here, but he's not doing terribly well with it. He grades out pretty well, not as good as the previous year, but with more volume comes more scrutiny. And he gets graded really well as a running back, 80.4, but everything else is actually bad. As a receiver, 51.1, terrible pass blocking grade, really bad run block grade, so a little bit narrow. And this was his best year in terms of volume, at least. So, yeah, 2024, definitely the year where he got the most usage and had the most production. But even in a year like this, you can kind of see that, yeah, he's a good running back, but he might not be good at too much else. And then you get to 2025, the most recent season. Notre Dame only played the 12 games. They did not make the playoffs, so less action. But he did get a higher percentage of the action per game, I think would be the way to put it. He averaged just over 20 snaps a game, and he got the ball about 10 times a game on average. 113 carries. So they did get him the ball a little bit more, but he's still a backup. Averages 6 yards a carry, 674 rushing yards. So good production, but still not any kind of a bell cow, or not even really a shared backfield. Jeremiah Love is clearly the man here, and that's understandable. He does, however, have the 11 rushing touchdowns, so he's got a nose for the end zone. Now, the problem is he also has a fumbling knack now. 3 fumbles on 113 carries. That's a big problem. That's starting to get to a point where you're like, okay, this is a trend, and this is something that cannot continue in the NFL. One thing about our running backs last year, they barely ever fumbled. So we cannot be introducing a running back here with fumble problems right now. 443 yards after contact. So the after contact stuff goes down as time goes by. This most recent season, less than 4 yards per carry after contact. But it's still good, right? It's still most of his yards. 32 broken tackles, so he's still doing some work there, getting extra yards. 24 of his carries go for at least 10 yards. And keep in mind here that his number of total carries went down slightly, so he's actually getting a little bit more efficient with the chunk runs. 11 runs of 15 yards or more, that goes down a little bit. Did have 1 penalty this year, the only penalty of his collegiate career. 7 targets, 6 catches, 87 yards. So he's actually pretty effective when he does catch the ball, but he doesn't do it very often. 14.5 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. And this kind of alludes to a thing that has been talked about. Is Jadarian Price capable of being a good receiver, and they just never threw him the ball in college? It's possible. Jeremiah Love was a very good receiver. Maybe they only wanted to throw the ball to him, and Price just didn't get those reps. He did average 17.7 yards after catch per catch, 106 total, so that's all of his receiving yards and then some. And he only allowed 1 hit in pass protection, which is a big improvement over previous years, although his grade did not improve at all, for whatever that's worth. So pretty much all of his snaps are in the backfield. He gets 3 snaps as a slot receiver and 1 snap as a quarterback. So pretty much standardized, just your stock standard running back. Mostly zone, but a good amount of gap as well. 76 zone, 45 gap, so split, pretty good. 114 run plays he's on the field for, 75 passes, runs 71 routes, and 39 pass block reps, so he did get a good amount of opportunity to pass block, and he did cut down on the stuff he actually allowed to get through, which is big. Now his run blocking went down a little bit, only 14 reps, probably because Riley Leonard was gone. Notre Dame didn't have a dual threat quarterback in that same way. 78.6 PFF grade, so quite good, about as good as the previous year. High run grade, better pass grade, but abysmal pass blocking grade. Run blocking grade drops off. So it's a very good season, but you can see the consternation about the fact that he was a backup running back. He does have a fumble problem now, it seems like. And life is a little bit easier when you're playing behind that offensive line in Notre Dame and you're playing behind Jeremiah Love. Let's be real here. Okay, so that gives us some totals for him, his career totals. So adding everything up that we just talked about, you'll see that this still is not a super expansive resume, but in a way that can be a good thing, right? That could be a positive because that gives us the opportunity to get a player that is not worn out. 41 games, but only 651 snaps. So that's what, 15, 16 or so snaps a game total. So really low usage, 280 carries. So if you take his whole career, and I know you're including his first season if you do that, which is a little bit cheating, but look at how low his carry rate is compared to the number of games he played. It's like he's barely getting the ball. And even if you throw in his catches, that's under 300 touches for his college career. Almost 1,700 rushing yards, average 6 yards per carry, 21 touchdowns. So the guy finds the end zone, man. You get him the ball, there's a higher than, what would that be? That's a higher than 7% chance he's going to find the end zone. Now, the 4 fumbles remain a problem, but we'll see. We'll see if that continues to manifest in the NFL. 1,200 of his rushing yards came after contact, so that's 4.3 yards per carry after contact. 73 broken tackles or missed tackles forced, so pretty decent rate of breaking tackles, about 1 every 4 carries. 54 of his carries went for 10 or more yards, so he does have a pretty good explosive rate. But it's worth noting that barely, 60% of his 10-yard runs turn into 15-yard runs, which says that while he's not slow, he's not fast either. Like Zach Charbonnet was an example of a running back who only turned about half of his 10-yard runs into 15-yard runs. So this is a little bit faster than that, but not that much. He's not somebody that's going to turn every big run into a really big run. The one penalty, only 18 targets across 14 games, so he barely ever got thrown at, which is why some people hope that he can catch the ball at the next level and be a good receiving back. He did have good production with his 15 catches, admittedly, over or almost 11 yards a carry or a catch and 3 touchdowns. And it's all yard after catch stuff. So it's all yak stuff, 13 yards after catch per reception, 13 and a half. Did allow his quarterbacks to get hit a little bit, 6 total pressures on 87 pass blocking reps. So there is a little bit of a concern there. He may not be a good third down back, but you look at the career as a whole, you'll see almost exclusively a backfield player, a little bit of stuff as a receiver, like 31 snaps as a wideout in some capacity. 1 snap as a quarterback, so that's kind of fun, I guess, but I wouldn't read into it. 162 snaps in zone, 113 in gap, so leaning zone, but plenty of both. 284 runs, 215 passes, ran 201 routes, 87 pass block reps, 65 run block reps. And that'll do it for the career so far of Jadarian Price by the numbers. We'll talk about him in terms of traits later today, so stay tuned for that. But let me know what you think of Jadarian Price based off the numbers. See you guys soon. Go Hawks.